Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another session of Speak Your Mind. I'm happy that you guys are able to join us tonight. So go ahead and call your friends, let someone know that Speak Your Mind show is on. I know we're a bit late, but please forgive us. But tonight we'll hope again that we can bring a stimulating show, a show that will engage you guys to be open and discuss the issues at hand. So tonight, basically, I'm going to open up the phone line immediately for folks that have, their own concerns, that want us to be able to see if we can shed some light and maybe a little guidance. But tonight, again and again, of course, the hot topic this week, last week, and right now is the cruise ship development pier. We're going to be examining that a little bit. I'm probably going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. Of course, last week we had the Minister for Communication and Work, Mr. Mark Vanterpool. He was here with us, and he shared some insight with us. So we're going to look at some of those insights. We're going to look at what's happening in the news in relation to the cruise ship development. Also, another hot topic this week in the news was the disagreement or situation with the Calypsonians, the guys who are going to be performing in the Big Monarchy show coming up soon. So those guys were having some issues. There's a number of them. I believe there was about 18 of them who were supposed to perform, and there were some disagreements with some of the requirements this year to be a part of that. So the guys signed a petition, some of them, most of them, to not participate in this year's Calypso show. I believe since the last meeting with the Minister of Education, Mr. Walwyn, I believe they may have come to some other conclusion. So we're also going to talk a little bit about that. I believe Monday or Tuesday they're going to have a press conference, so the rest of us will really know what's going on. Tonight we're just going to cover a little bit of it. So like I said, the phone lines are open. I do have a number of texts you guys for texting early. Some of you wanted to get your comments and questions in early, so you feel like you don't feel like you're being neglected. So thank you for that. So again, the phone lines are open. Call someone, let them know that the Speak Your Mind show is on. We're a bit late tonight, but we promise to make it up with fruitful conversation. So immediately, I'm just gonna touch a few of the texts and then move forward. So again, welcome back to the Speak Your Mind show. We had some texts that came in. One of the texts that came in said, is asking the question, what's going on with the airport development? If anyone knows what's happening with the airport development, I know the Minister for Natural Resources and Labor is spearheading that department. The airport development, along with the cruise ship development, are two major investments that is probably needed in the BVI. We need people in the country. We have to have our own air access. It's a matter of security. It's a matter of convenience for a lot of the folks coming from abroad. If it could be done, why not do it? That's my position. So if anyone knows what's going on with the airport development, please call us and let us know. Next text came in and asked about the cruise. This is a comment. They say the cruise port plan is bad for BVI, for locals. I'm not sure if anybody, whoever sent this text, if you had a chance to look at most of the presentation, hear most of the information. If you believe it's bad, please elaborate a little bit more. Call us and let us know. Most people who've been going to the meetings and listening to the minister love the plan. They believe that it's good. I mean, they're talking about spaces available at a reduced rate for locals. We're talking about an expansion of our water-based tours where locals can probably be a part of that. And just this week, most of the taxi guys had a meeting with the Minister of Communication and Work, and we were able to iron out some of our differences. I think if all goes well, the taxi guys will have a little bit more access to the customers as they come off. We'll have maybe a few dispatchers that can help us, rally the folks. So when they come off the ship, they don't just go shopping, and when they're ready to go independently and get a taxi, they're not lost. So I think that was some of the biggest concern we had with the taxi issue. So, but folks, it's not just about taxiing. It's about all of us. There's going to be opportunities, like the minister said, to create maybe a dance company, do some really nice arts and craft, and maybe some of those stuff can really be sold at the cruise dock. The cruise dock is a very ambitious plan. I mean, it entails a lot of stuff that definitely the tour operators will be happy with, the ship will be happy with, and overall, I think we all should be happy with. So it seems good to me. I don't have any major issues with it. I think my two issues, which I will go into a little bit more into the show, is maybe with the long term of the financing. I believe that we can probably negotiate, or could have negotiated that better and differently, but that's just me. I'm not an accountant, I'm not an economist, but as a concerned citizen, like most of you are, a lot of you are, maybe it could be negotiated differently. Maybe we could have had a shorter term where those guys maybe made their money in a shorter term. And I posed that question just this past week to the minister. And it wasn't like the paper said to challenge the minister's position or, try to disrespect the minister. That's not my position. My position is that I believe that we probably could have negotiate a 30-year buyout or walk-away deal. I mean, most people who I've sat with who were able to crunch numbers and looking at the flow of people that are coming into the country believe that with the amount of people that is projected to come to the BVI, and if you multiply the amount of money they're going to be making, just that money in head tax alone, that's a lot of money. And then keeping in mind, the minister himself said it, after 15 years, the head tax will be incremented. It would be increased by a certain percentage. So that's even more revenue at the end of another 5 or 10 years that the investor will probably going to make. So I think the minister said he's willing to sit down with me and I guess bring in an accountant or economist to help us fully understand the type of financing, the reason for the 48 years instead of 30 years, the type of loan process, and really dig into it. So we'll elaborate more on that as we go forward. Next text said the public needs more information. They believe, this person believes that more information is needed. We have to really dig into what's happening at the cruise dock. They probably want to see more stuff. Please elaborate. Tell us exactly what it is. What more information would you need? I mean, I thought, the minister did a series of meetings. He had different players in the industry involved in small, pockets of groups of who were able to help weigh in on some of what was going on. I must say that, I was invited to some of those meetings, and I'm glad I was, because I was able to see things that, and fight for things that wasn't part of the thinking, the thought process, the people who pretty much was responsible for this type of development. I mean, they had everything down packed, but there was a few things that were missing. And again, I said earlier, some of those things that were missing was that as a taxi operator, as an independent operator, not a tow operator, but as an independent operator, and that's a world of difference between a tow operator. Independents weren't really looked after. I mean, they had us coming in, maybe a few at a time. The rest of us were kind of like, find a space. No, I don't think that's the way you want it to run. You don't want your customers coming on the island and saying they're getting bad treatment because the independent folks can't get a reliable taxi. It takes too long, or the guys have to come and they're not prepared to go to work. No, that's not how we work it now, and that's not how we should be going forward, especially with this kind of development. So you need more information, call us and tell us what kind of information you would like. I mean, what more, that you haven't seen that you would like more of. So Again, this one also came in. This text came and said, taxi guys are out of the loop. I guess this might be a taxi operator or maybe a supporter, a family member of a person that drives a taxi who feel as if, you know, we were out of the loop. I must agree with you. We were out of the loop. And again, since our last meeting Tuesday, I would hope that at the end of that meeting, there's more information, there's more understanding from the taxi side, how we were being, you know, just out of the loop. So I have to agree with you, but I think that may have changed. So we'll have to wait for the next meeting where they'll have some updated slides, some updated information to show us exactly how the whole thing's going to rotate. We've seen some of that, but the general public hasn't seen that. So business opportunity, you know, expansion of the water-based services, tours, expansion of the tour operators who work hand in hand with the cruise ship. Obviously is in the loop. So there's going to be a lot of expansion, a lot of opportunities. This one has a question about the finance. I guess they probably looking at the same thing I'm looking at. I mean, what about the financing, you know, how does it really work? Since most of us don't understand, you know, why would an investor put down so much money if it's just a simple walkaway deal, even at 48 years? Maybe there's more to it. Maybe he's really making a lot more money and is willing to take the risk. But even if the financer, the investor, is making a lot of money, we should ensure that we also, as BVI lenders, make a lot of money. I mean, these guys are being guaranteed. They're putting their money down, yes, but at the same time, they're utilizing the country to get to that position. I mean, I hear a lot of arguments. People say, oh, well, we're not putting anything up. I mean, that sounds kind of ridiculous. We are putting a lot up. We're putting a piece of land up that's worth a lot. We're putting up the mortgaging of our kids, your grandkids' future. I mean, you know, if the deal falls through, people are asking, what are the guarantees that, you know, we're not screwed in the end? What are the guarantees that the little kids who don't understand what's going on, all those 5-year-olds and 6-year-olds and 7-year-olds, when they get, you know, 52, 53, 54, 55, is when most likely this deal will end. What are they looking at? You know, even before that. I mean, is there continued opportunity as this deal takes off to where if we were to find a few local investors that can actually get in there and say, I want to be a part of this? That leads me to my next text. This text actually asked about investors. They're asking, where are the local investors? I don't know. There's, you know, I hear people say that there's investors out there. I know there's probably 1 or 2 people that maybe have a little interest. We don't know. I don't know if the government even conducted any type of meetings, called folks up and say, here's a great opportunity. I think that's one of the biggest problems, or not problems, but maybe one of the biggest misunderstanding people are having. You know, a lot of people are still bitter over the last, you know, big deal. And, you know, it wasn't, in most people's mind, transparent. It wasn't upfront. You know, and you know, people were asking why do you need another water company? Why do you need to develop another thing when you already have your own folks here who could have probably did that work, and you know, yeah, they're gonna be rich too, but they're one of us. So I prefer to have our own become rich, you know, and then, you know, everyone else from outside becoming rich and we're still sitting here poor. So I guess most people were looking at that and asking, you know, was there any real effort put forth by the government to encourage local investors before they run to the street? I don't know. I can't answer that question. You know, it would take the Minister of Communication or Work and anyone who's around him that is responsible for, you know, the whole concept, the development, you know, the whole planning and everything, you know, to answer that question. I know there was a comment made that Even if the outside investor were involved, once the deal hit the table, once the government was able to understand the type of opportunity when it relates to financing and the return on their financing, there probably could have been one or two locals who they could have said, to the outside investor, we do have some locals who want to be a part of this, and here they are, introduce them. I'm sure there's been deals before. I remember years ago, this must have been 1998 or 1999. No, it was after that. I think it was in between 2003, 2008. I sat down with Cyril Romney, and I heard Cyril Romney said that he had some deals, some cruise ship deal, a mega deal. I remember that very clearly. And he, at that time, said he was in a position to maybe help come up with the idea for the financing. So, he left, God bless his soul, he left a really good, in my judgment, a really good business behind. He got some smart people running it. All his daughters are, on top of their game. So I'm sure whatever he left behind, they probably have access to that as well. So where are the local investors? Only the ministry can answer that, if there are any. And I'm sure, folks, you don't have to wait for the government to contact you. If you have money to invest, you believe that this is something you wanted to be a part of, the minister has put that challenge out there, step up. Step up. If submit your application, submit your interest in writing, and tell them what you're willing to do. I think one of the things I see in this development is there's two options. You have the port side, the extension of the dock, the dredging around the dock, and the widening of the dock. That's one set of money, and then you have the development of the grounds itself. That's another set of money. So if you pull them together, unless the investor is saying, I don't want to split it because they want to ensure the long-term return, which is in the hundreds of millions of dollars at a 48-year return. They still could have been, I personally, if I was in government, I would have been pushing my own. If I know for a fact that in the past I've had locals who had interest, why not? Ask them, So again, the flip side of that is you don't have to wait for the government. You can step up if you believe that, this is something that you want to be a part of. So next text is, what's next with the plan? This person wants to know, what's next? We have these series of meetings. I don't know. I only assume that as you have these meetings, you're able to iron out the differences. You're able to show people, local investors, how they're going to be a part of this long-term investment. Then the next step should be cabinet. I'm sure in cabinet, I think they meet either Tuesday or Wednesday. I'm sure they're talking about it. It's a hot topic. It's something that it ain't no easy, no small investment. It ain't no small thing. The minister's putting a lot of effort into selling it to the folks. So bringing it forward so we can see exactly what it's all about. So I think it's a great idea. I like the cruise ship development. The only thing I had problem with or have questions about is whether or not we're able to pay back these guys at a 30% at a 30-year deal and have them walk away versus the 48. I don't think that's a crazy question or a silly question to ask. Many people are asking that. At least at 30 years, just simple numbers. If you just crunch simple numbers, 425,000 people, additional 270,000 people from other ships. You got 425 guaranteed. There's been numbers tossed around about the increase in head tax. Some say it could be anywhere between $10 and $20. Well, I'm going to go in the middle. Let's say it's 15. If the government maintain its share of the head tax, which is what it's getting now, whatever we get now, I think it's either $6 or $7, and it's increased to 15. That's $9 or $8 difference. So, you know, you just do simple math. You know, multiply 400,000, 500,000, 600,000 people by $8 or $9. That's what you're looking at a year. Multiply that by 15. That's the return. That's just the head tax. We're not talking about money that they're going to earn from the rent for the buildings and so forth. We're not talking about that. The cruise ship, on the other hand, itself will make a lot of money, because if you have increased passengers, that means they're going to have increased tours, and increased tours means more money for them. And I mean, when I look at the plan for the tour side of it, I mean, I see where, you know, folks, you know, if they miss you on the boat, there's going to be some kiosk set up. No, we never had that before. You know, I heard people say that, yeah, you know, the tour operators were selling tours to the folks, even the ones who didn't book on the ship, off the ship. I never saw it. I mean, I go up to the dock all the time, and I'm very, you know, I pay attention to what's happening up there. I look at everything, and I've never seen that. But even if it was happening, it was happening on a small scale. But this new development will change that. I mean, the tour operators will have, you know, 2 booths, one on the seaside, one on the land side, and those guys, their job is to try to rake in as much as they possibly can. And you know what? They have a right to do that. I mean, that's part of their investment. They want to make as much money as they can. But at the same time, you know, what's left for the rest of us? So, you know, I think there's a lot to be earned from that. So of course, they're going to make their money. I mean, there's no doubt. And I want them to make their money. I want them to make as much money as they can. But, you know, something has to be said about the locals making money as well. I mean, you know, the whole purpose of you know, expanding the cruise ship dock, you know, doing all this development, I would assume, is to, you know, do 2 things. You know, to bring money into the government treasury, and to also stimulate growth throughout the territory. You know, anybody that's involved in tourism, cruise tourism, providing services, you know, ambience for them, you know, the focus should also be where they also can make money. So we're going to go to the phone. I see a few more texts. As soon as I get back, we're going to hit the text. It's just me and you guys tonight. So again, don't hesitate. You can call. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.